Stretch goals. So, what kind of stretch goals can you plan for your campaign? There are basically two main categories, and the first one is digital, and the second one is physical. Each one of these can have about four unlock conditions. One is funding goal, if you reach a certain amount during the campaign. One is campaign-based achievements, for example, a percentage of the campaign, like, oh, it's now funded 1,000%, or the number of backers, now we have 1,000 backers. Then there could be social actions. You ask people to do something, share a specific post, join your Discord community, things like that. Or time. This is a more rare kind of unlock condition, but several campaigns, especially in the board game market, they automatically unlock stretch goals every day or every certain amount of days to get people to come back to the campaign page and watch it again. So people don't have to do anything; they just need to come back to the page to see new stretch goals that are unlocked. Basically, these are things that are planned already, but they are revealed throughout the whole campaign. So, general advice, the things that you should do. First of all, you should plan a list of stretch goals in advance. These are the things you really want to have as stretch goals. You should look at what is your ideal result for the campaign. Say that you want to get to $50,000, and then you take the space in between your public goal to the ideal result and divide that into milestones. Every $2,000, every $5,000, you place a stretch goal. You should divide them equally, but then adjust according to how fast the campaign is going. If you realize that you're burning through the stretch goals, maybe you should kind of open that window between two stretch goals a bit more. Otherwise, you do the opposite. And then you should have a B list of stretch goals, which is a list of things that you will do if things go wildly better than you expected. So it's something that you think you will not have to do, but if something happens and this explodes, then you have some ideas ready at least. Once you've done this, I think you should divide them into major and minor. So majors are things that you really cannot do if you don't get more funding. Because maybe they need more illustration, because you need to hire somebody to do them. So you definitely need funding to do those. And then the minors are the stretch goals that you think you were going to do anyway at some point, maybe as extra material, maybe for a future expansion. But now if you have the funding, you can put it in now. There's a practice that it's a bit controversial, but if you realize that your game, for example, has already too much material, one thing you could do is that you take out some stuff that is optional and then present it again as a stretch goal. This happens often because it's easier to write a lot of stuff instead of too little. And the same is for game design. It's easy to have too many things, too many components, too many miniatures, too many missions, rather than have too few. So if you realize that your game offer is really huge, you could look at it and decide, okay, this stuff is not vital for the game to function. Let's take it out, and then if we get more funding, we put it back in. You should make the stretch goals scalable. In my opinion, if you make them small and more frequent, it's better than having huge stretch goals that unlock at amounts that are very far from each other. Because if you have small, you can keep announcing them, you can keep putting them into updates. People get used to receiving every 1, 2, 3 days a news that, oh, there's a new thing now. So I prefer that, and also they're much easier to predict, much easier to forecast. For example, if you decide that this specific category of stretch goal is gonna occupy 3 pages, then you know that if you have 3, then you're gonna do 9 pages. If you have 10, you're gonna do 30 pages in a book, for example, and that allows you to understand better what is the final size of your game. I think that stretch goals suggested by the community could be added if they make sense, and you learn what people will ask during the campaign. They will come up with some ideas that you haven't thought about and you might want to consider. As mentioned before, do not reveal all the stretch goals in advance. I think there's no advantage in doing that. It just locks you into a structure for unlocking them that you decided before the campaign, and before the campaign you cannot really forecast exactly what's going to happen. The way I do it is that I reveal 2 or 3 at a time, and then according to how it's going I make some adjustments. Sometimes I swap them because I realize, okay, this actually would be better to unlock earlier. This is something that people want more than this, so it's much better to do it that way. And then if you realize you're unlocking too many, maybe you can even space them differently between them. Other things to do, so if things are going really fast, I think you should really look again at that B list that you compiled in the beginning and check again if it still makes sense. And start making them concrete stretch goals. Okay, so this was the idea. Okay, now how do we actually make it into a stretch goal? Where do we place it? What is the condition for unlocking it? And then if things are going too slow, just make the stretch goals a bit closer to each other, making sure that they do not cost too much for you to produce. But they are a good way to get things going again. If people see that something new has unlocked, maybe they will bring in more friends and they will talk about the campaign. Just make sure when you're planning this stuff, how they will impact your delivery date. If you're planning something that is going to add 6 months to your delivery date, that's not a good stretch goal because you cannot even change once the campaign is launched the proposed delivery date. And if it blows up too much, if it becomes like 1 year longer than expected, people will complain. And also make sure that unlocking this new stretch goal does not force you to have more shipment waves, because as we discussed in the first module, that will definitely increase your shipping expenses, maybe to levels that are not really sustainable. Things that you should avoid doing is that do not say yes to every single idea backers suggest, because they do not know the context. Some of their ideas are good, some of their ideas are bad. Sometimes they have no clue what it takes to make what they're asking, and they are not really thinking through what they're really asking for. So consider their ideas, give them feedback, thank them, but do not say yes to everything. I think it is better if you you stick to your plan, you keep your campaign in focus, and if something they suggest fits that plan, then fine. Otherwise, you say, oh, maybe we'll do this next time. Also, do not promise things that have not been discussed with who's supposed to make them, including artists, writers, manufacturers, musicians, whatever it is. So if your game did not include plastic miniatures before and you have not done estimates for them, unlocking plastic miniatures as a stretch goal without doing all the calculation, it's a really, really bad idea, because you will find out that you have made a mistake and it's going to cost you a lot of money. So do not promise something that you didn't have the chance to really see into an Excel sheet. And in general, do not overpromise, do not make the stretch goal too big. Again, count every cent, like how much does it cost you really to make this, and also understand when it's time to stop adding stretch goals. There's a point where I think it is really wise for you to stick to the delivery date, that you do not add anymore, and then you just say, guys, if we add more, we're not going to deliver the game in time, and I think you want the game in time, so we'll stop here. I think we unlocked already everything we could really realistically unlock for this project. Thank you very much for your support, but we're not adding anything extra. One mistake that I've seen in a couple of campaigns that have horribly failed is that they lock some of the primary rewards behind a stretch goal. What does it mean? That, for example, they make you pay for 2 books, but one of the book is really not there unless it is unlocked as a stretch goal. That is a terrible mistake. People do not fall for it. And you should never do that, because you're making them pay for something that might not happen. We could argue that the whole campaign could be considered that way, But in that case, it's very obvious that you're asking them the price, for example, for 2 items, but what they're actually getting, it's for sure they're getting one, and then maybe they get another. So that is something that you do not want to do. And then, in the Pledge Manager document that we saw in the first module, there is a stretch goal tab, which we will learn how to use in one of the bonus lessons of this module.